Diabetic treatments actually restore beta cell mass. We know that chemical engineering with incorporation of micro and nanotechnology is revolutionizing the management of diabetes. Insulin injections and pumps are getting more widely used, although remember that this concept dates back to 1974, when an electrode repeatedly measured blood glucose and triggered an insulin release from a pump, which entered the bloodstream whenever needed. Insulin and drug delivery routes such as nasal, transdermal, buccal are being investigated. Dates back to 1974 when the National Commission of Diabetes in the United States did a landmark review, a 4-volume, 10-part report, and it promoted the concept that was then new to the field of diabetes, the concept of translation of advances in research in actual practice. Translating research into practice is not easy. That's what COVID taught us. With hundreds of cultural differences, applying uniform treatments was very difficult, and one of the classic examples has been steroid use, where there has been a wide difference between what has been followed in different parts of the country with regard to steroid use. There is a patient psychology, which is very difficult to change, that long treatment lists are not better than short ones. Short ones which are more effective may be better than long treatment lists. And it's a very difficult concept to translate. Translating research into practice is itself a difficult concept. But translation is putting science to work. So it is applied science, right? The barriers to adoption of science is an asymptomatic nature of diabetes, attitudes, beliefs, misconceptions, acute episodic healthcare systems which confound the influence of obesity, health economics. There are so many issues that serve as barriers to adoption of change. So whenever there is a new science, you have a consensus development. That consensus development should be translated into a message. That message should then be translated into adaptation at clinical care level. After clinical care level, whatever barriers come to adopting it at clinical care level should be looked into. These barriers should be removed, they should be circumvented, and from then on, it should be put into practice where clinicians and patients interact with each other. So, for example, if you look at this whole translation module, we look at COVID and we see how we got it done, right? We have Dr. Avinash Supe, who is our executive director at Hinduja. He was very active in COVID. He's still very active in COVID. And he was a major part of developing or bringing in the concepts of new science, having a consensus developed on that, and then using those messages transmitted to the general public as well as to specific doctors or health agencies. And then he would pick up the feedback that came in and brought about this closed loop system. So he adopted research to clinical care bench to bedside. He helped identify specific barriers to specific situations, developed novel approaches to dealing with these barriers, and a feedback loop was created, which ultimately helped to improve whatever happened. So you can see that Maharashtra has managed to reduce its numbers pretty well. Now, there is a lot common between COVID and diabetes, right? There's an asymptomatic nature of COVID during the infective phase, because of which a lot of people get infected. There's an asymptomatic nature of diabetes pre-complication stage. Attitudes and beliefs and misconceptions exist for COVID. Similarly, in diabetes, it's just a touch of sugar. Why do you want to bother about it, right? Scientific evidence acquired over the past decade speaks volumes, where mask avoidance and other risk-tolerant behavior has been seen in COVID, just similar to what is seen in diabetes, although we know that severity plus life-shortening ability plus morbidity, 9-bit concept of diabetes exists. Yet, when patients are diagnosed initially with diabetes, very often they tend to say, it's okay, the beginning hai, to shuruaat hai, main dekh lunga. Attitudes of general public and even clinicians at times have not changed. So we essentially are a reactive system. As a nation, we remain an acute care system for almost everything, that reacts rather than proacts. Look at even heart disease. Although we have heart disease, we're the leaders in heart disease. We are still in acute care heart disease. Until the patient doesn't come and tell us or doesn't get pain, he will not come to you. If there is so much of family relationship for heart disease, right? If an elder brother has had heart disease, the younger brother should be watched more carefully. But hardly any families bother to do it. Many times the doctors may tell them, but they don't really bring it in. So we are essentially an acute care system rather than being a proactive system. Chronic illnesses cannot be well managed by such a system, and they require long-term implemented prevention plans. Diabetes is a classic example of chronic illness being managed as an acute care oriented reactive healthcare system. Patients will come to you only when their sugar goes high. While their sugars are controlled, they say we don't need to see a doctor. Whereas that's when they should be seeing. The very fact that I can fit a comparison, that I can compare a COVID module with a diabetes, an acute care illness like COVID, with a chronic disease like diabetes, itself speaks volumes to the way we are handling the diabetes in our nation. A closed loop system is something that measures the sugar and automatically treats the patient's sugar system, right? So if the sugar is high, it automatically treats the sugar. How does that work? The earlier ones that were built had multiple problems, but intelligent glucose responsive delivery wearable systems have developed in the last 10 years quite significantly. Insulin skin adhesive pumps for basal or bolus infusions are there. Disposable patch pump, which has been recently introduced by EOFlow. This is a very interesting one. It's a closed loop. It's a minimalistic design. It is following the system of Medtronic's MiniMed. But look at this. If you notice, it has been introduced recently, January 19, 2021, where it's being, touted as a wearable artificial pancreas. And what is it? It's just this patch, which is attached, and it communicates with your phone. And it's a wearable to build a total diabetes management solution in line with rapid growing digital healthcare market. So this not only measures your sugar, it also treats your sugar on its own, following an algorithm, and you can wear it for about 14 days. Glucose responsive delivery systems as a array. So there are array of small vesicles that deliver treatment. There are array of small vesicles that measure glucose, right? This smart system regulates the blood glucose. It has been tried in a mouse module. It is hypoxia sensitive hyaluronic acid, which is used. I think I'm not going to go into the details of this because it's slightly complicated and we are not really having too much time. A closed loop feedback controlled Exendin 4 treatment. Now, what is Exendin? Exendin is very similar to liraglutide, which is basically similar to your, which is a GLP-1. It helps diabetes patients to be able to bring about an array of differences. And because Exendin is a short-acting short-acting molecule, it helps to control diabetes even just when it goes up. So while the patient's diabetes is under control, it doesn't act. And the moment it goes up, Exendin 4 can be brought into treatment and it can bring about changes.